Good afternoon. My name is Michel Chossudovsky from the Center for Research on Globalization, which is based in Montreal. And in the context of our program, Debate and Analysis, I want to address something which is absolutely crucial. It's the so-called second wave of COVID-19. Governments in Europe, but also in Canada, in Ontario, in Quebec, are now putting forth new measures with a view to addressing this second wave. What they're saying is that the number of positive cases of COVID-19 have increased dramatically. Now, let me just explain the nature of this test, because in effect our governments are using what I might describe as fake statistics. The test for COVID-19 is the RT-PCR test. It's the standard test. It's the swab from your nose and your throat. But that test, which is widely used and which is an important test in medicine, but that test is not meant to identify a virus. And that test does not identify the virus. What it identifies are a number of fragments of different viruses. And those may be other coronaviruses like common cold, there are many, or seasonal influenza. And what has happened is that from the month of March, when the World Health Organization decided to launch a global pandemic with guidelines to 193 countries to close down their economies and implement the lockdown, what happened? This triggered, of course, a fear campaign, which was supported by the media. But also, people started to go and get tested. In fact, the government said, go and get yourself tested. There's a lineup. There were parking lots where you could go and get yourself tested. Now, what has happened is that in the course of the last few months, the number of people tested has gone up exponentially. Millions and millions of people have gone to get tested. But this does not prove that COVID-19 as a disease, defined as a disease, which is the result of SARS-2, has actually increased. And what they're now telling us is that the pandemic is in the second stage, and they're even comparing it to the 1918 Spanish flu. So there's a lot of media disinformation which is thrown in. Now, what this increase in testing has done is that obviously it has increased the number of positive cases. But these are not positive COVID-19 cases. They could be common cold, they could be influenza, and besides, the SARS-2, which causes COVID-19, is defined, and you can read the reports of the CDC and peer-reviewed reports. SARS-2, which is the virus which is affecting us, is similar to seasonal influenza, and it also has similar to certain categories of coronaviruses, colds, common colds. So that when you actually go to get tested with a PCR because you're frightened and you think you've got it, well, you might test positive, but you might test positive because you have a number of particles of viruses there, and nothing proves that that's COVID-19. It could be a alpha, beta coronavirus, it could be AB seasonal influenza, and consequently, what you are testing positive to, and remember that when you go there, is particles of viruses positive. That's what you're testing for. And nothing proves that COVID-19 is the positive test. And so that even the issue about these false positives, from my standpoint, is a red herring. And now then we have to ask ourselves, what is the decision-making process? The governments receive their instructions from higher up, from the financial establishment, and those instructions are there, and the COVID-19 surge, which is due to thousands and millions of people being tested, is there to legitimize or to justify a second crackdown on national economies, and specifically the trigger of bankruptcies in the services economy, including restaurants and hotels and so on. In other words, it's the second phase of a global bankruptcy program. That's what it is. And the governments are liars, they're corrupt, and they are not and the media is not informing us on the nature of these tests and on the nature of the virus. Because if we had been informed that the virus was similar to seasonal influenza, or it had links to common colds, which is corroborated, the coronaviruses, we would not have experienced, or we would not have experienced this fear, and we would have reacted differently. All the measures which have been taken, the face mask, social distancing, the closing of colleges, universities, schools, the closing down of sport events, museums, it is based on a lie. It's based on a lie, and it is justified in regards to this PCR test, which is never carefully analyzed by the media, and it is there to serve the interests of the upper echelons of the financial establishment. And what our governments are involved in, it's not criminal negligence, it's far more serious. These are decisions, and they are instructions to close down economic activity with devastating economic and social consequences.